It started as a simple township board meeting in Dolton, but by the end of the night, a small group of frustrated citizens were walking miles through the cold streets of Illinois on a mission. Their destination? The upscale Gold Coast neighborhood of Chicago. Their goal? To confront Governor J.B. Pritzker and demand action against the embattled mayor of Dolton, Tiffany Henyard. This wasn't a spontaneous act of protest. It was the result of weeks, months, of growing outrage. Anger that had reached its boiling point after a shocking revelation. The life insurance policies for all village employees had been canceled due to non-payment. For many Dolton residents, this was the last straw in a long list of alleged financial missteps by their mayor. The march began shortly after the Monday village board meeting. Mayor Henyard was notably absent. In her place were confused and increasingly frustrated trustees who were left to break the news to the public. Every village employee's life insurance policy had been allowed to lapse, and no one could explain why. By 8:45 p.m., the group of activists, led by community leader and activist Jedediah Brown, left Dolton City Hall on foot. Their destination? The private residence of Governor J.B. Pritzker. Brown, wearing a determined expression, went live on YouTube. His message was clear. The governor can't keep kicking the can down the road. As Brown walked, he didn't hold back. He said he was going to support Lori Lightfoot's investigation, Brown said, referencing a recent independent probe conducted by the former Chicago mayor. Her investigation alleged malfeasance, using public funds for personal gain. That's not just a headline, that's our lived reality. With every step, Brown and his fellow activists carried the weight of their village's pain. They weren't just walking for spectacle. They were walking because they felt abandoned by their mayor, by their local leadership, and by the state. The Lightfoot investigation had already sent shockwaves through Dolton. The former Chicago mayor had been brought in to lead an independent inquiry into the village's finances. What she found was damning: signs of gross mismanagement, questionable spending, and a disturbing lack of oversight under Mayor Henyard's leadership. For many, the cancellation of life insurance policies felt like the final confirmation that things had spiraled out of control. You mean to tell me our first responders, our public workers, people who put their lives on the line, no longer have life insurance? One protester shouted. That's criminal! As the activists neared Chicago's Gold Coast, the tone shifted. Some had fallen back, choosing to follow the march in vehicles. A smaller, determined group continued on foot. By early Tuesday morning, only a few remained, but their spirits hadn't faded. When they arrived at Governor Pritzker's residence, they stood outside with signs and chants. Their voices echoed through the quiet, affluent neighborhood. But the mansion was silent. A statement from the governor's office would come later. Governor Pritzker does not have the authority to remove municipal officials from positions they've been elected to. That response didn't surprise the activists, but it didn't satisfy them either. While they're posturing on national issues, against Trump, against the GOP, what about the corruption under their own roof? Brown said. They gotta act. Brown wasn't alone in his criticism. Many residents have repeatedly raised concerns, not just to the governor, but to other state officials. Emails, petitions, public comment sessions, none of it has yielded meaningful action. And now, with village employees' benefits literally vanishing, the feeling in Dolton is one of betrayal. Mayor Tiffany Henyard is no stranger to controversy. Over the past year, her leadership has faced increased scrutiny. From lavish spending and personal security details to questionable use of public funds, the headlines have been relentless. But the mayor has often dismissed criticism, calling it politically motivated or driven by misogyny. Critics argue otherwise. They say her administration has become synonymous with chaos, and the numbers back them up. Dolton, once fiscally stable, now faces mounting debt. Vendors haven't been paid, services have been cut, and now, even employee life insurance is off the table. For residents, this is about more than politics. It's about survival. It's about knowing that if a public worker dies on duty, their family may be left with nothing. No compensation. No safety net, just loss. It's not just about mismanagement, said one marcher. It's about dignity. It's about human lives. These aren't numbers on a spreadsheet. These are our neighbors, our friends, our loved ones. And so they marched. Not because they believed the governor would wave a wand and fix everything, but because someone had to take a stand. As the controversy around Henyard continues, the village has become bitterly divided. Some remain loyal to the mayor, praising her for initiatives in policing and public safety. Others accuse her of using those very programs as a smokescreen. While the village crumbles behind closed doors, even the trustee board has fractured. Meetings often descend into shouting matches, and accusations of intimidation are commonplace. The environment has become so toxic, some employees are afraid to speak out publicly, fearing retaliation. But what infuriates the activists most is the silence from those in higher office. If the governor can't act, Brown said, then who can? Where does the buck stop? At what point do you step in and say enough is enough? It's a question many in Dolton are asking, and not just about the governor, but about the attorney general, the county board, even federal agencies. Is there no mechanism to intervene when an elected official is accused of putting an entire village at risk? Legally, removing a mayor from office is complex. Unless a criminal conviction occurs or the official resigns voluntarily, the process is slow and arduous. Some residents are exploring recall elections, but those require massive organizing efforts and funding most don't have. Meanwhile, the damage continues. Employees are working without full benefits. Services are disrupted, and morale in the village is at an all-time low. For those marching to Pritzker's mansion, this wasn't just about policy, it was emotional. Many have lived in Dolton their whole lives. They've seen the village thrive. And now, they watch it decline under what they believe is unchecked leadership and failed oversight. I never thought I'd be marching in the middle of the night to the governor's house, one resident said, holding back tears. But I'm tired. We're all tired. This is our last cry for help. What happens now is unclear. Mayor Henyard has not commented on the protest or the life insurance revelations. The governor's office stands by its claim of limited authority, and residents are left in limbo, waiting for someone, anyone, to hold their leadership accountable. But what is clear is this: the people of Dolton aren't giving up. Their march may have ended, but their fight continues. In a village once full of promise, mistrust now fills the air. At the heart of it is a mayor who insists she's being unfairly targeted, and a community that says they've seen enough to know better. From boardrooms to sidewalks, from canceled policies to midnight marches, the people of Dolton are demanding more than answers. They're demanding justice, and they're not walking away quietly.